Guys, so the tension between South Africa and the US just keeps getting deeper and dirtier. So I came up this evening to see a kind of like a headline that actually said that, US congressmen demand President Trump to revoke South Africa's AGOA membership and to break ties. This was published on Valentine's Day, 14th of February, 2025. And it was really interesting because it's a really CNBC Africa report. And I was really intrigued. I hear, Ronaldo House has actually made a video on this, but I thought to really go on deeper and to really understand also what South Africa gets to lose if it loses AGOA. What does AGOA do for South Africa? Why is AGOA so important to South Africa? Just like as we've seen PEPFAR. PEPFAR is actually helping kind of like the 8.55 million South Africans who are actually HIV positive. South Africa, as you see that beautiful country, is home to 1/4 of the world's population living with HIV AIDS, all right? So PEPFAR is really important. Now we know that with USAID and the way I'm seeing Donald Trump's anger towards South Africa, I really don't think PEPFAR is going to come back. Or probably, I think I saw a video that said Marco Rubio has ordered that PEPFAR should be lifted to a certain capacity anyway, but probably not to the extent to which it was initially funded by USAID. Now, AGOA is under threat. What does AGOA do for South Africa? Now, there's a report I saw on sanews.gov.za, which actually explains the kind of things that AGOA actually props SA for. It says that AGOA enhances diversification of African economies and enables them to export value-added products. So we know that in Africa, there has been a problem with beneficiation. Products are actually extracted raw, but no benefit is actually put on them on the continent to provide jobs. So AGOA is that kind of funding that still helps a country like South Africa to really beneficiate and really provide jobs in this instance of beneficiation. It actually also says that AGOA also helps to reduce Africa's dependence on primary commodities, because we know that there's a lot of investment that is needed to also help Africa. Even though we are the home of the natural resources, raw materials, there's also a lot of investment needed to be able to convert those raw materials into finished products to be able to then compete with the outside world. AGOA is part of that funding that provides for South Africa to do that. And also by doing this, it also helps to provide jobs for many South Africans, despite the fact that we know that South Africa is reeling with 3% unemployment rate. AGOA is actually present even in spite of this unemployment. Now imagine taking that away. We might actually be seeing the eventual 95% unemployment rate that has actually been predicted by the likes of Rob Hersov and some other, people I've actually listened to, analysts I've actually listened to. But anyway, AGOA has actually been helping South Africa. There are lots of jobs that are actually still maintained by AGOA's funding. But we woke up this morning to see that 4 U.S. Republican congressmen, their names, first of all, Andrew Ogles, Tom Tiffany, Joe Wilson, and Don Bacon, they penned a letter. This is personal now. This is a personal, they took their time to pen a letter. All right. And in this letter, it says that they actually demanded that President Trump should revoke AGOA, South Africa's AGOA membership. Now, why? What are the details? It says that 4 congressmen have asked President Trump to revoke South Africa's access to U.S. market. And remember, U.S. market is a really large market. It says it has asked President Trump to revoke South Africa's access to U.S. market through the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, as well as consider breaking diplomatic relations, accusing it of undermining America's interests globally. This is the basis for their penning of this letter to take South Africa out of the access to America's market. This letter they wrote was dated February 11th. Today is February the 18th, 2025. And it says that these 4 congressmen, they had a vendetta. They said that South Africa had a vendetta against Israel. which was allegedly committing human rights violations and was friendly with China's Communist Party. So in other words, their anger with South Africa is the fact that they believe that South Africa is actually committing human rights violations. I believe this is in light of the whole farm, expropriation act, and how Donald Trump and Elon Musk were actually arguing that South Africa is expropriating white people's land, but also their friendship with Chinese Communist Party, which we know is a really major rival to the democratic space that America has actually established itself to be. So South Africa being in that mix then puts them at red flag for the US. So in the letter, there's a section of the letter here in quotation marks. It says, this is their message to Trump: "We urge you to revoke South Africa's preference benefits under the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act." And the letter, signed by 4 congressmen, says, "We would also suggest that you consider suspending diplomatic ties unless that government is prepared to engage constructively with our own." So this is where South Africa and the US war between both of them is actually heading to. And trust me, it's not good. Anyway, it says that President Trump backed Tesla CEO Elon Musk. President Trump, backed by Tesla CEO Elon Musk. This report says that they falsely accused South Africa's government of mistreating Afrikaners and white farmers as it tries to reform land ownership in a country where they own more than 3/4 of the land, although they make up less than 10% of the population. No farm has been forcibly taken in South Africa since democracy began in 1994. This is CNBC Africa's perspective. But I've seen many comments on Facebook that actually argue, like this comment here, that actually says, and this is actually the same news on Facebook, okay? This is the same news on Facebook. This page is actually called "Break the Silence About South Africa." And this comment here says that the 5th paragraph of the article is misleading and written by a misinformed individual. Elon Musk has informed President Trump of what is actually happening in South Africa for the last few years since 1994. As a white South African farmer, everything said is true. White has been pressured, tortured, and killed. Farm were sold for next to nothing as the farmers and his family, no children to inherit the farm, they were murdered. The fact that 3/4 of the land is owned by whites is a gross misleading fact. Only 1/3 of the land was calculated, and out of the 1/3, 70% was owned by whites. Let that sink in. Vast provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape are all black owned. The Zulu King owns millions and millions of hectares of land, not to mention Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Again, misleading and only fits the narrative of the corrupt governments. Stats are old and totally outdated. So this is the perspective that this comment has on kind of like this whole issue. But anyway, this report then goes on to say that South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, who heads a 10-member government of national unity, has said that he will send ministers to address the US concerns, but has insisted that South Africa will not be bullied. The US has been unhappy that South Africa took Israel to the International Court of Justice, accusing it of genocide over a military offensive in Gaza, where tens of thousands had been killed. And Israel has denied the charge, saying it defended itself after Hamas attacked it on October the 7th, 2023. So part of that letter now goes, this is the message now these Republicans write to Trump. They said, South Africa is simply not deserving of duty-free access to the American market. And this is what AGOA is all about. AGOA is actually a way to access the United States market without the tariffs and the duties. Now we see that Donald Trump is adding tariffs of as high as 25% to Canada, Mexico, I think China, and some other countries. But now South Africa has enjoyed tariff-free entrance to South Africa, to the United States markets, especially selling agricultural products and all that without tariffs, bringing in jobs and also bringing in the required amount of money into the country that the country needs. But if this goes on and South Africa loses AGOA, we'll be seeing a loss of jobs, lots of access to that large market that South Africa depends on. And this is how economic shocks begin in an economy, and the economy starts imploding, and then we see massive depression, massive poverty at large scales. So this is where this whole thing is actually going to. And the letter then says that the letter citing South Africa's moves to force the relocation of Taiwan's liaison office from the capital Pretoria. We saw that, I saw this last year anyway. I think the office of Taiwan was forced, the liaison office was forced to relocate from Pretoria. And I think Taiwan has a close allyship with the United States, I think. So it says that Pretoria's continuous insistence on undermining America's security and foreign policy interests are similarly disqualifying under eligibility requirements. And, you know, so I think this is actually what South Africa might be losing if it loses AGOA, and if these Republicans actually win the favor of Trump to cut South Africa out of AGOA. South Africa would lose free access, tariff-free or duty-free access to the market of the United States, and then this would actually, in a way, most of the Afrikaners, or probably the farmers who have actually been on the bench on whether they should move to the US as refugees or not, this might probably then become that stepping stone, because if AGOA is lost, most of their farm produce, for example, which actually enjoy purchase or access to US markets duty-free, would not be there anymore, and then there would be really need, because I really don't know, if they'll be able to get that revenue they get having that free access to US markets, and this would actually cause a shock to the economy in South Africa. And bro, honestly, I just don't like the direction this whole thing is going for South Africa, South Africans, but I'll be encouraging South Africans to brace up. The worst might be coming, but probably just stay strong, and let's just see how this whole thing goes. I think there's some level-headed politicians who really wish to now go to the US to negotiate with the United States and hopefully see how cooperation between this market, because this is a vital market. The US market is a vital market, and I don't think it's something that any African country at this point should actually lose access to. But anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think about this letter by these 4 Republicans, US Republican congressmen, who actually wrote a letter to Donald Trump asking Donald Trump to revoke South Africa's access to the United States market through the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA? Share your thoughts in the comments.